I'm Jason Klom, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. The year is 1971, the album. I think we're all Bozos on this bus. The artist, the Firesign Theater, and my guest this week is David Traylor, a.k.a. Mr. Zed, a.k.a. David Zed, a.k.a. David Kirk Traylor. Look, we covered them all.
Yeah, how about that?
So
lots of names.
For real. Now, it's interesting because I know I must have, based on all the clips that are on YouTube of yourself in character as an Android stand-up comedian. I must have seen you as a kid. I know that has to have happened, but I rediscovered you only weeks ago.
Oh, well, I'm glad you did.
Me too.
I did back in the 1990s. I did the whole rash of television programs there in the United States. I did the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. That was the first comedian he had on, or new comedian he had on.
Wow.
I did Regis and Kathy Lee, which was a daytime program, which was very big at that time. In fact, it amazed me that it seemed more people saw that than saw the Tonight Show, which was an important Tonight Show because he'd just taken over.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. At daytime TV, I didn't think anybody watched it, but it really was revealing how many people saw that.
Yeah.
You know, because people would comment about that, and much more than they would comment on the Tonight Show. Which was I would have thought the bigger deal, but what the hell?
Yeah, you would. I mean so were you there? You go onto the Tonight Show literally on the day that people now talk about as the day the Tonight Show changes. Like when it was Johnny, it was like you got your shot on Johnny, you had a sitcom the next day practically. So
yeah.
So did you? Now I'm curious. I mean, I'm assuming you had enough lead time to know you were not going to go on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. You knew this was a new thing.
Yeah. In fact, it was one of those shot in the dark things. Jay saw my tape and really liked it and got back to me the week before we went on.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
So it was like, wow. We knew the change of the guard was going to happen.
Yeah.
His first show was with the old comedians, I think with Robin Williams and Billy Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Just to shove off. And the first real night, his first night as on his own was was when I was on. So that had permeation. I also did a lot of the cable programs too. I did an evening at the Improv. I did Caroline's Comedy Hour for A&E.
Uh-huh.
I did Showtime's Comedy Club Network. I did all at that time. We're talking about the 1990s. There were a whole lot of stand-up on television because it was so cheap for producers.
Sure.
They had put up the mic, and they didn't even have to put up the mic. They put it in a comedy club. They'd set up the cameras in a comedy club, and that would be it.
Yeah. Wow.
You didn't get any real. Well, I suppose I'm supposed to be getting residuals for that, but you don't. That never became an issue.
Of course.
And sometimes it was difficult to get paid once you'd done it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one. I won't mention the cable network, but it took me about a year and a half to get paid, and they were like really angry at me for being so insistent.
Really?
But yeah. Oh
God.
Yeah.
So how?
Yeah.
Sorry. No. Okay. So when you started, well, actually, let's start about your start in stand-up. Did you start stand-up comedy as a fake android, or what's the development of that character?
Well, it's a long story, tale told by idiot. I started when I was like 14.
Holy cow!
I was actually in a coffee shop in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. But I had always wanted to be a comedian. The first things I did were a lot like I was a big George Carlin fan, and I still am, as I think every comedian in my generation is and was. But evolved from that. Mm-hmm. I did impressions, things like Bob Dylan at the time, of course, which was appropriate for a coffee shop.
Sure.
Coffee shop. I mean, a coffee house, which is a big difference. Coffee shop is a different animal. But anyway. and living in Philadelphia at that time, as I did, there was a whole lot of university campuses. There was Temple University in North Philadelphia. There was University of Pennsylvania, Drexel. There were several on the main line, and there were places that could be played. It was a difficult sell, though, because technically speaking, well, not just technically speaking, I was a minor.
Uh-huh.
So if there's alcohol being served, it had to be discreet.
Right. Right.
But more than anything else, I was in the summers. I was in New York running a Baskin Robbins in Greenwich Village every day, every night except Thursday when the Improv had their no cover night, and basically again going in with a fake beard, hoping no one will notice I'm underage. Nobody really bothered in this New York City in the 1970s.
Uh-huh.
The police had other things to worry about.
Sure.
Thank goodness.
Oh my God.
Which is actually where I first saw Jay Leno.
Mm-hmm.
I was amazed with Jay Leno too, because with all the people who I would see on those Thursday nights, he would have been the guy I would have thought was least likely to be the success that he was.
Uh-huh.
But there you go. What was his name? The guy who did Taxi.
Oh wait, one of the star. Oh, Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman, yeah. Andy Kaufman was there, and Elaine Boozler, who I really admired at the time. She really knew how to write a set that was tight.
Uh-huh.
I don't think she ever got credit for all that she did. Really, she's really amazing comedian.
Man,
anyway,
that's a time though. That's a time to be starting in stand-up, and yeah, it's stories like yours that are the ones that are missing now that they're doing dramatizations of late '70s comedy, where they're probably you couldn't have been the only minor sneaking into these clubs and trying to get up on stage.
Yeah, well, at that time at the Improv, I wasn't trying to get on stage. I was just trying to see how the real guys did it.
Oh, okay, okay, sure. So you're just there as all right.
Yeah,
interesting.
And it was a good education that way.
Yeah.
I would later do the evening at the Improv, which was, of course, in California. This wouldn't be though until the 1990s with the Zed character. But the Zed character really he became part of a sketch I would do later on in the 70s, and the audience responded to it very well. But he really matured when I moved abroad.
Uh-huh.
I got a scholarship to go abroad. It was a mistake more than anything else because my grades weren't that good, quite frankly. I had a radio program in Philadelphia, with the campus radio, which was WTDR in Philadelphia. That was North Philadelphia. I was at Temple University, and I got a scholarship, kind of a warm body scholarship, if you will, to go abroad. And I chose Italy because it's like basically because it's Disneyland for historians. I was always interested in history. When I got here, I found a whole new world, and I risked my ticket getting back because we're running on the cheap as a student.
Sure.
It was a discounted student rate for the flight over, but in order to stay a couple of weeks without Little America on my tail, I had to gamble $200 that I could raise $200 in 2 weeks to have those 2 extra weeks here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I had been a busker using mime technique, mime on the streets of Philadelphia and New York. This is back in the 70s, and I was doing robotic mime before it was the cliche that it became.
Interesting.
It kind of came to a mix. I got stranded once in Florence with an artist. Well, he's an art student at the time, and I started busking with no costume, no nothing, just his pad and a circle and a couple of lira that we had in our pocket to give people the idea that they were supposed to give up money, and they really responded very big time here.
Wow.
I had come to this country, it meaning Italy, with $200 in traveler's checks, because that's all I had. I had found, however, a job working in radio here in Rome at the Radio Daily American. I had already knew how to run the turntables and all that. It didn't pay much, but people were interested and wanted to hear in English the DJ, and of course I would ruthlessly exploit the occasion to develop material.
Sure.
And of course, it paid, I think, 30 euros a week, which wasn't much, but it was certainly better than nothing. And it was something I knew how to do, and it did okay. But in the day, I was working as a mime. At night, I was working with as a voice. So it was very odd in that sense. A silence by day and talking altogether too much by night.
Wow, that's fascinating though. So okay, so you're if you're doing the robotic mime thing, it had never occurred to me. I wonder when the hell it got its start, but I want to know what made you want to do this. Mime as a thing existed, and then what did you see growing up that was like this could be adapted for mime? Did you see other people doing similar stuff?
Not at the very beginning. I'd always knew I wanted to be a comedian, and I was always looking for anything that would put me on that track. In the 70s, my family had moved to Brigantine, New Jersey, and in Brigantine, New Jersey, there was an amusement castle, a horror castle, horror for the whole family.
Uh-huh.
I was Dracula 12 hours a day there.
Wow.
And there was a mannequin, a Frankenstein mannequin, that moved its arms, and just originally just to joke around with my fellow monsters there, I'd go in for my paycheck and imitate the Frankenstein mannequin, and then I just playing with it and realizing, I have a short attention span, so I get bored really easy. But there was something I always had with me, which was my body.
Sure.
And as I waited in line for anything, I would be practicing new techniques, putting things together with it. It's interesting to me to see that I can see the evolution. And if I look at old recordings, I see the mistakes I make because I'm always checking out my movements. You'll see this too in others, I think. If you see them leaning over and watching their arms,
Uh-huh.
it's because they don't their muscle memory yet. But
Right.
anyway,
That's so much of what it is too, right? You have to nail. It has to feel like your arm just went back to the same exact place it went to 5 seconds ago when you did that same punchline again. Because I know you, at least in the old clips I've seen, you've got a couple callbacks that you do, but that callback depends on you doing it exactly the same way every time.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's muscle memory.
Yeah. Man, that's tough. That is, I mean, that's a simple way to put it, but it is like, the more when I watch it too, it's impressive because I'm like I know I could not do it.
I had done mime as part of as theatrical movement, but I always thought that my teachers were so full of shit.
Uh-huh.
I had also been a ballerina, a dancer, a ballet dancer, classic dancer when I was young against my will, but that too, along with the theatrical training, if you can call it that, uh, taught one thing, and I went exactly in the opposite direction with Zed, because Zed, instead of being fluid movements, is exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
And instead of projecting, which is essential for any actor to project, especially if you're in theater, a Zed presentation, even in its primordial form, was a question of keeping vibrations from getting out, meaning that we all exchange vibes at all given times. Your body language tells things on a subconscious level, but you just feel the vibe and they come and go from other people. Well, Zed is exactly the opposite of that. It's to hide any vibration you might have, so that people think of you as an object, not as another human being.
Right.
Which of course leads to a lot of the comedy, especially when I was a busker, meaning working the streets, as a street performer, I guess. Can you say busker in America now? People understand what that means?
I think so. I do think so now. Yeah, I don't think it's so funny. I don't know when I learned that term, but it was not something I grew up with. But I feel like it has made its way into the lexicon within the last few years. Maybe just because the internet's making us more international. Maybe. Is that possible? That could be the case.
Maybe. I don't know. How about cheers? Now the Brits say cheers all the time, and I like it, but I don't. I never heard any Americans say it. When you
I will tell you,
Cheers.
a lot of Americans do that I know, but well, I don't want to say what I was about to say because they're usually very kind people, but it sounds pretentious. But I like it. I like it when it's from an English person, or if I'll give you a pass. You live in Europe, so you're allowed to do it.
Well, thank you.
But
Thank you.
there are a lot of hipsters I know who will say cheers, and I directly want to question them. But that's just because I'm an angry little boy on the inside. But to answer your question, it is over here.
Okay. I was told by a Brit friend of mine last spring that it actually came from Cheerio,
That
which would be
makes
even
sense.
more presumptuous, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
cheerio.
so. I mean,
Tut tut. Off here.
at that point, if you're an American saying cheerio, you might as well have a monocle on. That's the difference. If you're English, you get a pass.
Yeah.
Holy cow! So, and I apologize to anybody listening who's upset that we haven't talked about the album yet, but the album is relevant, and I think will play a part in talking about the development of Zed a little bit. I mean, it's one of the first things that ever. This album's one of the first pop culture things to ever feature a hacker at all.
hmm
So,
for me, if I may just interject, it was
please.
the first time I'd ever heard of a hologram.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is 1971. There were not a lot of holograms around,
Sure. Yeah, you were a bit young, well, in my mind, I feel like you're a bit young to be listening to, because there are people who were in college at the time you would have been listening to this, and you were quite a bit younger than that when this comes out.
Yeah.
Did you hear it when it first came out, or did you hear it later on in life?
No, I was 71. Yeah.
Wow.
That
Okay.
was the Waiting for the Electrician. I heard after it had been out for a long time, but Bozos, I remember that coming out and being a big deal.
That's amazing. Who exposed you to Firesign, or did you discover them on your own?
Well, and in high school, I was in a band, a high school band, the Chicken Fat Ripple.
Uh-huh.
I was a singer.
Amazing.
From so you could say that, and I do bits between songs.
Uh-huh.
And the drummer, a guy, uh, Jim Meneses, who's a drummer to this day.
Mm-hmm.
At practice, he had the records, and he was the guy that turned me on to them, and I'll always be in his debt for that.
That's wonderful. I love when it's a friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jim is the kind of guy who would be listening, by the way, to this type of what do you call this? A podcast?
Yes, indeed.
He might be out there listening somewhere. So if you are, Jim, thanks.
So what did it? Because I will tell you, as a young man listening to Firesign, I didn't get it. It took me a while to get into Firesign. It also took me knowing Phil Proctor and interviewing him about it, and then getting to this album actually kind of blew my mind in a new way. So I'm glad you picked this one. But I'm wondering, like, what was it? Just the absurdity? Was there something specific that hit you as a young man?
Oh, I loved it. It was again a revelation. First of all, the things that the Firesign Theater joked about were not things that you heard joked about on television ever.
Sure.
The whole idea that everything you know could be wrong. In fact, later on they actually have an LP called that. Everything you know is wrong. But from the very beginning, there's that suggestion that just about everything you know is wrong. And that delighted me because I had that inkling as well. And to hear it from someone else, and to hear it done so much better than I could have ever done it, so much more eloquent. The closer you listen, the more things you hear. Just before we started recording, I was listening to Bozos, and I was finding things that even back then, and I played this record again and again and again that I don't remember getting.
Yeah.
It was all of a sudden, I don't know. It's like you're your first year studying piano, and all of a sudden you hear a Mozart's concerto, and you go, "Wow, this is cool! This is way out there. I love it." Their jokes were so smart, and I didn't get them, and I delighted in not getting them until I got them, and then I delighted in getting them, having walked over that joke before, not realizing it was a joke or an implication. It just oh wow, it's like MC Escher, the artist. Looking at his work, the Firesign Theater were that for me. In fact, again back in the New York days, I worked in the the mailroom at WBAI in New York
Oh, you did.
because
Okay.
Phil Proctor worked. Yeah, I never got on the air,
Uh-huh.
but I was, this again. I was in high school, and this was like, wow, this is where Phil Proctor worked.
I gotta tell
Now,
you, I hate to interrupt, but we'll have to talk about this more later. You just blew my
sure.
mind. WBAI has entered so many things that I have in the last 2 months. It has become a huge
Hmm.
part of some research I've been doing, and I had no idea that
Well,
Phil. It's never come up with Phil before when I've spoken with him, and I now love that you
yeah,
were in the mailroom there. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. But this was after I mean, they were already big in LA and all that. But
Sure.
I was the kid.
Uh huh.
I never met him. I wouldn't meet him until well, I guess about 3 or 4 years ago.
Really?
Yeah,
Was he
he liked me.
in Italy?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we were friends on Facebook. And I
Okay.
dropped him a line, and we got together and hit it off like a house on fire. Again, it's like maestro.
Right. Right. Of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
That's
showed him my work. He liked my work. Of course, it was pretty obvious I liked his.
right. Right. I'm so curious about because I mean I feel like if you told somebody, okay, listen to this album, get a feel for it, and then watch this guy who's playing a robot stand-up comedian, I think the connection makes perfect sense, especially considering that they are not afraid of puns. They're not afraid of just ridiculously silly jokes. You're doing this
Yes.
thing as Mr. Zed where you're not like going out of your way to tell like super edgy jokes. You're telling the jokes a robot would tell. Did that ever feel risky, or were you just like, no, I'm committing to this?
I'm committing. I'm committing to this because this is what's right.
Yeah.
You know, and even that, even the silences in the act,
Oh
and
yeah.
some people when they see the nightclub act, they say, well, uh, 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 well, and that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You should laugh if it naturally occurs to you.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you don't get it, that's okay. Watch
Mhm.
it again.
Yeah.
You
It
know, the Firesign Theater had that effect on all my work. In fact, I did a kids show here in the 1990s, the late 90s,
uh-huh.
which is you can see on YouTube now, not the whole thing, just pieces from it, but it's the Mr. Zed channel where you can see a lot of the work, and it is along the lines of the Firesign Theater, but done for kids and adults. Okay, the idea was to write for both kids and adults. In my generation, we had Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Sure.
In my kids' generation, we had Shrek. If you ever see those films, they're written on two levels. One is, of course, for mom and dad, and one is for kids. And again, with the attention of Firesign Theater, and not as good as them. I don't want to imply that at all, but I do want to say that it so struck the way I thought and the way I wrote from then on, that reward the careful listener,
Yeah.
because there are things that are hidden, and the idea is you can see this more than once, and it's not boring.
Right.
I thought that was a brilliant device that they did, that they came up with, and so that's in my kids show too. The kids show, by the way, was supposed to go on well, kind of a Saturday morning kind of event,
Uh-huh.
but the network, it was like one of the only things that they produced, and so they put it on late night, and they found that they had an even bigger follow late night than they did during the kiddie hour.
That's so
So
funny. Honestly, that's how Adult Swim functions. I mean, they put some stuff on that might pass as maybe some of it might pass as children's programming, but definitely, tracks for adults. There, you said something though that is, I wonder, and you can comment on this better than I could. If you were just doing stand up as yourself, would you be afraid of those gaps, of those silences? Does the character help separate you from it,
yeah.
or yeah?
Oh yeah, as a comedian, it's disastrous.
Yeah,
but not for Zed.
I
For
love
Zed
that.
counts on that.
Uh-huh.
He's counting on you not to be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to ruin it for you, because for people who haven't seen it, again, it's on my Zed channel, the Mr. Zed channel as well. There's a program I did for the BBC, just a piece of a program I did with the BBC. to give you an idea what my stand-up was like. So
Yeah.
if you're at all interested, subscribe to the web channel, the YouTube channel, Mr. Zed.
Yes, please do. No, it's enjoyable to watch. It's a thing that I again nobody's done, and I like the idea that you have the opportunity to kind of not hide behind the character, but there's this protective layer where you get to play, I think, more than maybe a lot of stand-up comics do.
Oh yeah, well in a sense, it's like going in with armor.
Yeah.
You know, it's it's the thing is the whole, I don't know, I guess, concept of, and again in the 90s version, was that it was a time of, every cable channel had their stand-up hour or half hour.
Mm-hmm.
And what struck me was that all the comedians, even the women comedians for the most part, were all the same comedian. They were all like how can I put this? A Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox of a fax of each other. Seinfeld, basically. They were all Seinfeld in one way or another.
Right.
To joke about them being clones.
Sure.
Because they were. And the thing is, the whole machine of the stand-up scene was, if you had the clubs, that if Joe couldn't make it, get Bob. He does this, they're not the same jokes, but it's essentially the same point of view.
Right.
Joe and Bob are exactly the same. That worked against me big time, because Zed was, you couldn't just put on another guy.
Uh-huh.
Because Larry is not the same as Zed. Larry may be the same as Joe and Bob, but the thing is, you if it's modular, that's what you want.
For sure.
You don't want anything that people are not expecting.
Yeah.
At least that was the point of view of many of these places.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating, but at the same time, it was also, okay, this is natural selection.
Right.
Right. I used to, like I said, I did stand up for a long time there in the States. And one time I was doing a black club in Philadelphia,
mm-hmm.
The Funny Bone there in Philadelphia.
Oh, sure.
And there were implications that I did not foresee. Because, I mean, with a full black audience, and the club had what I did not know at that time was people knew that it was a black club. I didn't know, and I just did, I had my own material. I don't do any racist stuff. Never did.
Yeah.
That's never struck me as funny. But at the same time, I realized I'm in a different context.
Sure.
In this case, and the audience was really shocked, and I was going, uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
Am I somehow saying some stuff or implying stuff that I don't mean that's pissing people off?
Okay, sure.
And these big guys from the back of the audience come out at the end of the show, because I'm also emceeing it. I'm going, uh-oh, here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy comes up to me and grabs me by the hand and says, "Man, that was funny shit." And so were buddies, and I was really relieved. Very relieved, because again, I'm a white guy, clearly a white guy, and Zed's accent is clearly white.
Yeah.
He's a robot, and I'm wearing makeup that makes me, that's not white face like a mime, but it is, mannequin white guy.
Sure.
So, that first night, that first evening, I remember going through my mind, does this have some meaning that I don't mean it to have?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're not used to that environment, that would throw you.
Yeah. But, they turned out to be they've always been a good audience for Zed, actually. But again, this was my first stand-up in a fully black club.
Yeah.
There were audiences that were fully black in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
At the Comedy Store, but that was that was a different kind of a thing, because you were playing with other comics. It was kind of there was more of a mix, if you will, at the store. And one of the great things about the Comedy Store is that it was, I'm sure, I would think it still is, a place for character comedy.
Uh-huh.
And that's always been kind of the thing that made it stand out, as opposed to the improv, which was more like straight straight comedy. Can you say that?
Yep, yep. What do you
More like
think?
corporate comedy, I guess.
Where's the appeal? Why do you think Zed works so well in Europe? I mean, does he work better? Like, it sounds like you've made a lot of television opportunities and things over there. Is it just because you're there and you're pushing to get Zed working, or do you think he has more appeal to a European audience? I'm curious.
I think he does have more appeal to a European audience. At least he has in the past.
Uh-huh.
Because I think that they have more of a tradition here of cabaret,
Okay.
of vaudeville, if you will. Vaudeville lasted here longer, I think, than it did stateside.
Right.
Although when I was a little boy, vaudeville was dead. I remember, old guys on buses they needed to talk to somebody and complain about something about the politicians, and it's a problem, kids today, and once you got about 5 minutes into the conversation, I was in vaudeville. It was part of it. I think Robert Klein did a piece like that where he has a character do that.
That's amazing. That sounds about right.
But it was amazing. But here it wasn't that way. It wasn't a dead thing. One of the gigs I got early on was in a club here in Rome, where they were basically doing a kind of vaudeville. It was kind of a sleazy kind of vaudeville, at least by what I had imagined vaudeville to have been.
Okay.
Having not seen it, but again, as a fan of the Marx Brothers and Fields and those guys from the 30s and the 20s, that they all did vaudeville. That was the root.
Yeah.
Great school. It was a really great school for comedy. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of crap.
Yeah.
But people went to it. There's no television and radio really hadn't taken on yet, I don't think. And if it did, it was still better. You're sitting around on a chair looking at the radio.
Yeah.
When you go into the theater, you're watching a real actor, a real guy do a real thing. And having shows night after night after night was the way to develop comedy.
Hey everybody, it's Jason. This week, Comedy on Vinyl is proudly sponsored by $300 Data Recovery, and there's a very good reason for that. That's because there would be no episode this week without them, and we'd have had to start the entire show from scratch if we hadn't found out about their services. So, as you probably saw online a few weeks ago, my hard drive crashed. That was 6 terabytes, almost 1 million files, and they recovered everything for me. This was not an easy order either. I had 4 drives in one enclosure in a RAID setup, meaning you can't just plug in the drives and copy stuff over. They took my drives, examined them, determined whether or not they needed to open my drives up in their clean room. Luckily, they didn't for me, which sped some things up. And then they copied everything over to a very large USB drive for me. The rates are reasonable, as little as $300 a drive, hence the name, and they don't just work locally. You can send your drives into them. So go to $300datarecovery.com. That's the number 300, then $datarecovery.com. Check them out, and once you do, back that stuff up again. That's a big thing. I had a hard drive that was supposed to be foolproof, and it wasn't. And $300 Data Recovery helped me out, saving 26 plus years of writing, art, photos, videos, everything, including this podcast. So check out $300 Data Recovery and let them know that Jason from Comedy on Vinyl sent you. Now, back to the show. Is it too much of a leap to say, I mean, does the Bozos album have any direct reflection on, I mean, what kind of a tech guy were you, are you? Does this influence Zed at all specifically, or is it just a nice coincidence that one of your favorite albums does also happen to relate to you playing a robot a ton?
Quite frankly, I don't know. I've never tried to psych myself out like that, but I liked it. I also, by the way, it's not the only album of the Firesign Theater that I loved. I also, I have a soft piece of my heart. Can you say that? Doesn't sound right. Anyway, I really liked "Don't Crush That Dwarf, Hand Me the Pliers" as well. One of my favorites.
It's brilliant.
It's an effect. It's something that goes into your mind. And when it has something like that, has that kind of impact, it stays with you.
Of course it does, yeah.
Whether you recognize it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny because when I talk to people about Firesign, it does come down to, if there aren't distinct sketches, it's hard to be like, what's your favorite part of the album? But are there things that you still quote or you can catch yourself thinking about from this album? Like, what's the stuff that stands out the most on the Bozos album for you?
animals without backbones hid from each other and fell over. And now I might be getting that wrong because it's been a long time. Um, oh, geez. Clem, the Nixon impression. Many busy executives ask me, what about the job displacement market in the world of the future? Well, with any luck, in the future, we'll never have to deal with questions like that again. Exit left, one way. It's so total. It's what you get now, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever had to deal with an automated menu,
Sure. Yeah.
If your problem is about Renaissance French, press 1 now. You know, if it's about the development of mammals in the late Cretaceous period, press 2 now. You finally get to 3 if you need to speak to an operator. Okay, and of course you will.
Of course.
But the machine acts as if it's not expecting that, and you get that doo-doo. We're working to make you lose your patience. Please hold the line. Are you still there? Your business is important to us. Please hold the line. Clem. So it's always, what can I do for you? Clem. I loved it. There was a time when I could have recited the whole album for you, but
Sure.
It's been so long since that I just remember what comes to mind immediately. But it's definitely printed on my psyche.
Well, I mean, that's it too. The more I think about it, the more this is an album that is 40 minutes of painting this world, and there are jokes in it, but it paints this whole picture. And I know there's a story, but I don't think of it in terms of a story. I think of it in terms of the world that they've created and loosely what's going on in it. It's because it's so dense. It's not dissimilar, honestly, to doing mime, to doing something like that, where you're supposed to suck them into this idea that you're a robot, and whatever happens in the middle of it is kind of incidental. The idea is you just saw a robot try to be funny, and I think that's kind of fun.
Oh, I'm glad you do. I'm glad to too.
I mean, that's just it. It's like with art, there's often, I don't know if somebody asked me today, hey, what's the story of I Think They're All Bozos on This Bus? I know there's a story, but I would immediately go into the details that mean something to me more than anything else. And I like that about, this weird art sketch comedy that is not really a thing that anybody else did.
Yeah. It really is. It's unique. Well, at the same time, from in my life a little bit later, we had access to Monty Python, first by records and then by the TV show.
Oh, okay.
But it was, the first contact with Monty Python was in a very similar sense, close to the Firesign Theater. Although the Firesign Theater at least arrived to me first.
Uh-huh.
I don't know exactly because I wasn't in Britain. I'd never been to Britain in that part of my life. But again, they too, had a massive effect on a massive influence on everybody that came afterwards.
Sure.
I think.
It
was just brilliant.
So you heard I don't know that too many people that I know of or who've mentioned it that heard the Python albums before they saw the show. Did you just hear the album that had clips from the show, or do you happen to remember the first thing you heard of theirs?
Oh, geez. Not This Record.
Yeah.
It started off with not this record, Matching Tie and Handkerchief.
Oh, yeah.
I believe was the
Yep.
That I remember, although I'm not really certain. Again, that once the TV show made it to America, I realized that a lot of their sketches from the records were originally done for TV.
Right.
And of course, we were very happy to have it. Originally, they were on public broadcasting because it wasn't considered commercial. Then, of course, it did go commercial.
Sure.
And they cut out pieces wherever they liked to fit in the commercials.
Which is
there was actually a big lawsuit over that.
Yeah,
I think won.
Yeah, it's great. We had a gentleman on a couple weeks ago who is he definitely is a Python historian and has written just re-released his book on them to add some new stuff. But yeah, he was talking about, I knew nothing about that. I didn't realize they'd even tried to bring it to commercial TV, and somehow art won out. That wouldn't happen again.
Well, you never know. Things have changed a lot. I mean, TV has changed a lot. just in the last 10 years.
Sure.
Well, George Carlin's thing about the 10 things or 12 things, words you can never say on television.
Uh-huh.
You can say them on television now, it seems.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, there's a good deal of them that have made their way in. Uh,
Yeah, but again, going back to WBAI, you remember the big case with that? Somebody played it on the radio on WBAI in New York, and there was a big suit about that.
Now the voice you developed for Zed, is that your radio voice, but through this filter of a robot, or is it something else?
Well, it came to me as I was developing the character. This is back many years ago when all of a sudden we had it was a trend that didn't last very long because it didn't work very well. But cars had like voice chips in them, and I was in Italy already, and the voice chips, of course, were done by the same people. Whether it was their language or not,
Mm-hmm.
and it was done, like Dora Jar.
Mm-hmm.
But they had this ridiculous American accent. Did not this lasted for like a year, maybe two. But I thought that was funny and added another dimension to what Zed would be like.
Yeah.
I did a television program for the Italians in the 80s, which was a live program. So it was a lot of improvisation. I wrote a sketch every day for it, but a lot of it was since it was a talk show. We had guests, and it was fully live, so we really didn't know exactly how it was going to go any day that it happened.
Yeah.
It was a big hit, by the way. We had 20 million people a day at the height. In a country that only has 60 million people, that means if you didn't see it, somebody in your family did.
Wow, that's insane.
And it was a great opportunity. It was also a good school in terms of improvisation, and of course, doing it in a foreign language and doing it as as Zed, who became even more like a synthetic Marx brother, and then all of a sudden I'm Chico Marx in reverse. Do you remember? Well, for those of your listeners who have never seen a Marx Brothers movie,
sure,
or listened to a Marx Brothers record,
yeah,
he had a fake Italian accent. Well, I hyped my American accent up a couple to have that same effect with the Italians.
I love it.
It's like a mirror, if you will,
of
what he did with the Italian accent with the Americans. I did the American accent with the Italians.
That's so good.
And of course, making ridiculous mistakes in terms of mistaking one word for another. It was I'm told a vaudeville staple. But when you've got 360 of these programs to do, and you've got to follow back on something. Well, the audience loved it anyway, and so did I. I loved working out these word plays, simple ones, but also because I was learning to write comedy in Italian at the time. But it worked, the combination of the character and the attention. Of course, that was also something that no one had ever seen here before.
Right. Wow.
Or since.
That's insane.
Perhaps there's a good reason.
Who? I'd like to. There's a technical thing I want to ask about, and that is, who made your hair? Who makes your hair? And who made the suit? And who still makes the suit? Because what the hell? That's some like that sells it. That's a huge part of it.
Oh yeah. Well, the hair. Zed went through an evolution, and the hair came to me because I was doing a gig in Nice. And I saw this kind of antique store that had a mannequin, and his hair was, clearly just sculpted into his head.
Mm-hmm.
It was the common use back then. It was like 1920s. And I said, this is what Zed should look like. And so I went around with this. I would draw it for people, and some people would just say, no, it's like a wig. No, it's not a wig. It's got to be solid chunk.
Yeah.
A solid chunk. So I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. I finally did catch up with a guy who turned out he had been a Zed fan from before, Rino Carboni. Rino Carboni was a craftsman, a great Italian craftsman in the classic sense of this, an artisan. He had done, I discovered only afterwards, all the movies for Fellini, the Sergio Leone, all the spaghetti westerns.
Oh my God.
We became great friends. And he helped me put together the makeup for that next step in evolution.
Wow.
The costume, he was a great guy, and we were great friends. He was at my wedding. unfortunately, he passed on in the early '90s.
Mm-hmm.
I still his son still provides me with hair.
Amazing. That's
It
amazing.
continues. Um, but he was like the only guy who understood. We did actually a show together on makeup, which I thought was great. He was the master makeup man for Italy for movies, and he had a line of commercial makeup for for ladies
Mm-hmm.
makeup, and there was a makeup convention, and he'd done so much for me. He asked me if I'd be interested in doing this little joke with him, and it was I got dressed up as an old guy, and he talks about how people can look younger using makeup, and at a certain point I start yelling shit at him like, yeah, you're really good at making what young people look old, but can you make an old person look young?
Love it.
He finally gets pissed off enough at me, calls me up on stage, and I get up and he puts me under the mirror, and instead of putting makeup on, he's taking it off.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I also have some plastic prostheses that made me look really old. At that time, I was pretty young,
Mm-hmm.
and once all the rubber was off my face and the proper color was given, it looked miraculous. Although everybody knew it was a joke.
Sure.
I mean, it was,
Oh,
they
that's
loved
good.
it, but it was just kind of symbolic of his spirit too. He loved to play these kind of play these kind of things. I think that's why one of the reasons too that he was so successful in the movies here. He was the go-to guy, Reno
That's
Carbone.
wonderful. Holy cow.
Yeah.
How about the
Yeah.
who built the suit for you, or is that something you found?
Well, the suit was originally pieces that the RAI, the Italian television network, had kind of leftovers
Oh.
when we did Ponte Raffaele, which was that talk show that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
There were different proposals, but in the end, the plastic look took over. And it worked really good on television. I worked out the version you see is now the blue one, because I had studied the technical side of television when I was at Temple University, and the color TVs, the color television cameras of that era had an interesting little thing that I had noticed, and that is that once it has one color stabilized in its scan, it assumes that any color like it is exactly the same color and just cheats.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That blue is blue like my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it assumes the cameras of that time assumed that my eyes would have to be that same color. So it kind of gave a spark to the robot that he would not have had normally.
Yeah.
To Zed. I don't talk about that much because I don't want to be giving away any tricks to my imitators.
Sure.
But and I don't know if that really works the same way anymore in digital television because the technology has improved so much.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But it's certainly effective at the time anyway.
Now, you mentioned imitators. I will say, if you search for Mr. Zed on YouTube, I see at least one person who seems to maybe be wanting to, we could call it homage. I'm curious, is this a thing that happens in Europe quite a bit, or what?
Yes, well, not just in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Russian guy who copies everything. His hair isn't a perfect copy, but he's certainly done as best he can.
Mm-hmm.
Now the costume is exactly the same thing. He does jokes and music and magic tricks, anything he can do. But there he goes. He's on TV there, and he's never bothered to get in touch with me. Although I've seen him on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy in Colombia, a very nice guy. Who names himself Mr. Zed in homage, and he's a busker in Bogota, and I'm what can I say? It's one thing if people try to sneak it around your back. It's another thing if look, I'm a great fan. I think what you did is great. Here's what I learned from you. What would you recommend? This, that, and the other. That's another thing completely to me.
Sure.
But here in Italy and around Europe, there were so many clones.
Wow.
Especially when it first hit in the '80s. I'm sure one of them but I won't mention him.
Okay. That's so funny to me.
But if you haven't got Viacom on your side, you're a loser.
Yeah, right. Right, of course. Wow.
Or Disney or CBS or NBC, all of which, by the way, I would love to meet with you guys if you're listening to this.
Yeah, right.
I love your product. How about we call off our little truce, our little war here, and
how I'm curious then, how often, like, where do you get to perform what do you use him as now? Like, what does Mr. Zed, is it just do you MC stuff? Do you have a program I'm not familiar with?
There's MCing work, that kind of thing. Right now I'm more in a different phase. I do still do Zed, and I do comedy and I do music. I have 2 actual shows, but we don't run with any real frequency. One is because basically bands here. There are a lot of great musicians here in Italy, and I'm sure no one will be surprised to find that out, because I mean this is where music came from originally.
Sure.
The scales, the way music is written, it was all invented here. But there aren't a lot of clubs that will have any musicians unless they're cover bands for something.
Okay.
Now, I have 2 projects that run irregularly. One is an 80s band that do hits from the 80s, and I sing some of them. I do the hits that I can't get away from. Though I'm not particularly enamored with it, but it is what people expect. And another is really just comedy and music, in more of a very silly kind of theatrical show, because it is a theater show, with some very talented musicians, where we take on everything from rock and roll to classical music to polka to everything, everything, and it's great fun. But unfortunately, again, when you have something different. And I love it when you hear people say, "Oh, it's we couldn't do anything. There's just nothing new on the market." Well, there is new things on the market, but nobody has the balls to put them up. Well, not nobody, but few. But the thing is, there are people who are doing new stuff. They're doing stuff that is not exactly what you've heard a million times before. You won't book them because they're not the same thing that you've seen a million times before. But if you were a little bit more adventurous in your booking, you'd not only be doing a great favor to your audience, but to these guys who who are working to make things actually entertaining. And so I think I've actually come down from the pulpit. The mass is over. You may go in peace. But yeah, that's the thing. Anything that isn't just like what in LA it was like this. It's like the idea for the show. It's like Dragnet meets Gilligan's Island with a twist. It's never its own idea.
Yeah.
It's like this and like I was told that Roddenberry, when he proposed Star Trek, it was he described it in the pitch as it's wagon train in outer space.
Yes, right. because you have no choice. Like, what are you gonna do? Because I mean, let's be honest, executives have no imagination. That's just how it goes. I know from experience in pitching. I'm not burning any bridges because those bridges don't exist anymore. So yeah, no, I totally get that. Can you tell me what the name of the song is that, was it on vinyl? Because obviously that's of interest.
Yes, I'm afraid it is. ROBOT. Or in Italian, ROBOT.
All right, now I am gonna have to find this. So is it under the name David Zed? If I'm seeing, oh my God, there's a lot of it. There's more than I realized on here.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah.
So we're going back to 1980 for the first version of it. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh my goodness gracious! Now I'm gonna have to find one and get you to sign it, because I mean, come on. I mean, that's my thing. There's a lot of different covers to it as well. So with different looks, so you can kind of see the evolution on these covers as well.
Oh yeah,
that's fantastic. Oh my God, this is amazing. Well, I always like to have people tell people. We didn't talk a ton about the album, but also we talked about it at length with Phil Proctor, so nobody should be too annoyed by that. I would like to know if you're going to recommend why listen.
Phil Proctor will know more about that than I ever will.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I just let him talk. I just let him go when I interview him about those. I let him go, and it's always kind of blows my mind. Do you what's a reason to listen to this album? Let's say somebody doesn't know the Firesign Theater. What's a reason to give this one a listen first, do you think?
It's like watching or listening this specific album. Now, the Firesign Theater in general, there are great reasons to listen to them because of the format that they have created here, and that is, I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible. This you're not supposed to get it the first time round.
Yeah.
This is something it's a record. That means a record gets played and replayed and replayed. So there are all sorts of. It's meant to be like that. It's like a poem.
Yeah.
A very good poem, where you don't really appreciate fully until your brain has had a chance to absorb it. It is way ahead of its time. They were way ahead of their time. But specifically, I think the Bozos album is way ahead of its time, and a lot of what you see in your mind's eye, because again, it's just there's no optics here. It's all a record. It's audio. Where they take you, their vision of what the world will be now. This is 1971, is pretty scarily close.
Yeah.
To what we have. To me, this kind of thing is particularly interesting. I'm into history, as you might have understood from my choice of Rome when I had that choice to make.
Sure.
There are movies that I would recommend. There's one from the 1930s called Of Things to Come, which is the idea is, and it's just before World War II starts off, and it starts off in London, and they're talking about the war that's coming. The war comes, but it lasts until 1971. Mankind is destroyed, and they build up, and in the year 2000, they have a pretty much wrong idea of what really happened, but at the same time, it's very interesting to watch to see what people saw in the future. This is something, by the way, if I can just go off a little bit on this.
Sure.
And that is, there's like a mural in Philadelphia, in the Pennsylvania train station, dedicated to the history of travel. And you have like the caveman developing the wheel. You have the pioneers on their wagon trains, and of course they build up to the train, and they go beyond the train, and there's a rocket ship. The rocket ship is how this is done evidently in the 20s or the 30s, but the idea that they already knew that they were going to go into outer space in rocket ships, or at least that's what they imagined for their future.
Right.
Okay. Now think of today. We have no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
I think most people have given up on jetpacks.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm still hopeful on that one.
Of course.
But anyway, we don't have that idea of the future that we did in the 50s. Zed is kind of a piece of that view of the future. This is the future, but for me, it's fascinating to look back into history. I like to use, for example, just in terms of my own life, the way I see my own life, having been born at the end of the 50s, I look at Superman, The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. Now, if you look at it in Mr. White's office, he has a big painting, a mural of a factory, and it's belching smoke. This was not considered bad then. This was considered progress.
Right.
This is our way to progress to the future.
Yeah.
Bountiful advantages brought to us by industry. Again, the Firesign Theater will take shoes for industry into the future in the next 20 years after that. But that view of the world, and there it is. I'm sure that mural was not put there on purpose to be a historical monument, but to me it is, because it represents the civilization that I was born into, and how it's different than the civilization in which I live today.
Yeah.
You had Eisenhower, a general, a hero from World War II, who was advising you to be careful of the military-industrial complex. Wow.
Yeah.
That's not something you'll get now.
No. Nope. Status quo. We're already in the middle of it. Let's stay here for a bit, guys. Let's see what happens. That's a really
It's all this little tiny chromium switch here. You guys are so superstitious.
That's a wonderful recommendation for this album. I mean, all things I can co-sign, and myself as a person who likes fake history, and I'm a person who that's definitely my deal. I like fictionalized versions of what can happen, what has happened, and there are so many ridiculous things that they nailed, partially because they did their research, and partially because they have these brilliant creative brains that no one will ever understand. It'd be hopeless to try and understand these guys' brains.
I do stand up on specifically Roman history because of that.
Really?
Not because
Okay.
of this program, but because as a student of history, there are so many things. And that's one of the revelations of growing up and following up. That history has always been presented as something very boring
Sure.
and something written in stone. It's not. A lot of what has happened in our history has been accident. A lot of it has just been arrogance and stupidity. A lot of stupidity.
Uh-huh.
And the things that people take for granted are wrong. To give you an idea, 1933 is the first year that women do not. Well, that's considered to be the turning point. Up until 1930, the scientific progress that we've had since 1933 has been greater than all of the previous human history before it.
Mm-hmm.
To give you an idea, it was so common that women died in childbirth, and that goes all the way up to 1933. It was just taken for granted as a fact of life.
Right.
There was a science fiction movie done in 1928, Metropolis.
Yeah.
Fritz Lang. And although he does a lot of interesting things, he imagines the future, the year 2000. This is all supposed to take place in 2029.
Uh-huh.
He does not foresee, however, that women are not dying in childbirth. In fact, the major conflict in the film is a son who is born of a mother who dies in childbirth, and her would-be lover who hates him because he is the only thing left of her.
Right.
And he's not his.
Mm-hmm.
With all the visionary vision that Fritz Lang had in that movie, and it's really something to be seen if you can, that was not something that was too much science fiction.
Right.
And he foresees, high-rise apartments and suspended highways, but he doesn't foresee that, nor did his audience.
Of course.
So many of the things that we take for granted have been distorted for us for various reasons and by various powers that be. But a lot of what happens in human history is a lot different than what we are given to believe. For example, I'll leave you with this.
Sure.
The covered wagon that we think of as being the settlers going to the west, that was a Roman design. You would have seen that in Rome, and in their travel systems, so the covered wagon. We think of that as being something out of a cowboy movie, and
right.
They did. They were still using the same technology then.
It's crazy.
From 3rd century before Christ to 1800s in what is now the United States.
Man.
But anyway, we don't. I'm going off. I'm rattling on.
That's fine.
They get them stopped. You just can't get them stopped.
I love that you have this specialty knowledge that invariably is informing everything you do, which includes your comedy, which people should seek out. I want people where should people find you? I don't know the Twitter situation or all the Facebook or your website. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh my! I have a Twitter account that I'm just learning how to use. I believe it's Zed5Zed.
Mm-hmm.
Zed is if you're an American, and you probably are if you're listening to this, that's ZED.
Mm-hmm.
5ZED. It's Zed Robot on what is it? The one on phone. I don't remember it. Instagram.
Oh, on Instagram. Okay.
That's Zed Robot on YouTube. It's the Mr. Zed channel. On Facebook, it's Mr. Zed Mr. Zed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a David Zed account, which is more more of me for those of you who can't get enough. I guess that's it. That's my coverage. But thank you for letting me say that, for letting me give the plug.
Oh, of course, absolutely. People need to seek it out. I mean, it's and I love that this is something you're still doing, and I love that it sounds like it continues to evolve.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Thank you again very much for doing the show. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, thanks a lot, Jason. It's been a lot of fun for me, too.
And I will just tell everybody, go to celerysoundrecords.com. That's where my little sketch comedy record label is. And I guess that's all I'm going to plug for this week. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klom. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. You can email us at podcast@comedyonvinyl.com. You can also send snail mail to StolenDress Entertainment, P.O. Box 805, Burbank, California, 91503. Subscribe to Comedy on Vinyl on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comedy on Vinyl, or find everything in one place at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune in to the new Stand Up Records channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. This episode is also underwritten by $300 Data Recovery. Visit $300datarecovery.com to get a quote on their highly recommended data recovery services. Visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, watch videos, and imbibe freely of our multimedia content going back 15 plus years.